Hi, friends. I'm Becca Werwell, author of the Road Trip Rescue series of faith filled contemporary adventures for kids ages 8 to 12. And today I want to tell you all about my first homeschool convention, which was the CHAP Convention in Pennsylvania back in June 2024. We're going to talk about what a convention is, what I did there, some statistics from my time, and a few of my favorite stories. So let's go ahead and jump right in with what a homeschool convention is. So, if you're new to the term homeschool convention, it's basically a group of people who gather together to talk about homeschooling, to provide resources for homeschool families, to provide information, face to face encouragement, and support. In the case of the CHAP convention, it was a Christian homeschool convention, so it's from a faith based perspective with the purpose of encouraging families to glorify God as they go through their homeschool journeys. There are speakers, vendors, which I was a vendor, and I'll talk about that more in a bit. There are lots of volunteers. There's a whole team behind making this event happen. It's really incredible to see how so many people come together to pull off an event like this. The CHAP convention took place on Friday, June 14th and Saturday, June 15th, 2024. At least those were the main days of the convention. And CHAP stands for Christian Homeschool Association of Pennsylvania. Figured that would be a helpful detail to know as well. As I mentioned before, I was a vendor, so I had a booth set up where I could sell books, and I had both Road Trip Rescue, book one in my series, and I also had early copies available of Road Trip Return, which doesn't actually launch until September, but it was really fun to be able to sell both books together as a set. And I did find, and I'll talk about this with statistics, but I did find that a lot of people enjoyed purchasing the full set if they decided the books were a good fit for their family. We arrived soon after 7 a.m. on Friday morning to set up the booth. And by we, I mean my husband and I. And he didn't stick around the whole time, but he was able to help me set up. And outside of that, he was watching my daughter, not in the vendor hall, because we figured that wouldn't have held her attention very much, being only a little bit over a year old. The vendor hall was open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Friday, and it was open on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So, two pretty full days. And we tore down the booth after 5 p.m. on Saturday. In addition to selling books, I also had a prize wheel at my table where I gave away stickers, dog erasers, I had special edition bookmarks, I had Smarties and coupons, and then also a free ebook or audiobook was another option. I also encouraged any kid who spun the prize wheel to have their grown up come over and sign up for my email list. It was a great way to make new email friends as well. I also had a few props. I had this stuffed dog at my table. My critique group joked that I need to have a real dog at my table that would be a lot more appealing and exciting to kids. But for now, this was a nice little mascot since I have a dog in book one, a little bit of dog content in book two. And when book three comes out, there'll be lots of dog stuff there. I also brought a few of my prosthetic arms and had those sitting out on the table. And those were great conversation starters with both kids who came up to the table and with grown-ups. And while it was great to sell books, and I'm so thankful for the books I was able to sell, I also just loved the conversations I was able to have with so many families who are searching for entertaining, faith filled fiction with their kids. It was fun to be able to talk about my heart behind these books and why I write them, and to see people really resonate with that message. I feel like it was really encouraging, and I came away from the convention ready to keep writing. So, now to sales statistics. Over the course of those 2 days of the convention, we sold 67 paperbacks, 20 hardbacks. We got 45 new email subscribers. My best sales day between the two was Saturday, and the best time was around 4 p.m. So, not too long before the vendor hall closed, it seemed like people needed to make their last minute purchases. And what I was kind of finding is on Friday, and maybe earlier in the day on Saturday, it felt like a lot of people were kind of perusing, seeing what they were interested in. They knew they wanted to get books or certain curriculum or whatever for their homeschool year, and they had to figure out what they wanted to spend their money on, and then went back through afterward and made their purchases. Now, a few favorite stories from my time there. The first story I want to share is of a girl who her parents were also vendors. And so she was walking around a lot with her friends, and she stopped by my table quite a lot and ended up being a great helper. my prize wheel, the little pegs where the wheel was supposed to stop, they would get loose. The screws on the back would kind of loosen the more it would get spun. And so she helped me by making sure those screws were nice and tight so the prize wheel worked well. So she was a great helper and ended up getting the books as well, which was really fun. So I'm hoping she enjoyed those. Another girl was a volunteer. She was a young volunteer who was helping out and also doing the teen track at the convention while she was there. And she came back a couple times, ended up buying the books, and it was really fun getting to connect with her because a lot of times as a middle grade author, I don't get to talk directly to my readers unless I'm doing a school visit. So I realized the homeschool convention is another really fun way to be able to talk to my readers directly. I also had a reader who bought book one on Friday. And then on Saturday, she came back to my booth. She said that she had read about the first 10 chapters of Road Trip Rescue, I believe. And she said she loved the writing style, loved the story, and knew she'd want the second book. So she went ahead and bought the second book as well. And there was also another writer who bought the hardback set and was so encouraging to me about what I was doing and about my mission. So that was a lot of fun. And I was so glad I had a set there that I was able to sell because it really did feel like people were interested in getting both a lot of the time. I sold more sets than anything else. I also loved seeing other types of vendors like wilderness camps. There was a wilderness camp right beside my booth. And then also the wilderness camp where I used to work was represented at the convention. And I was able to chat with the representative who was manning the booth and remembered her from when I had worked there. So that was really fun and unexpected. Okay, a few lessons learned for next year. I was manning the booth pretty much on my own the whole time. My husband was able to drop in a couple times as needed with my daughter, but for the most part, he wasn't able to come because he was watching her or she was napping, or I just knew she'd be happier doing something else. And so I was managing a lot on my own. I was managing the conversations and the sales and keeping records. And let me just say that my records, while they came together, they were a mess. And so it would have been really fun to have him with me, especially because my husband's a lot better at the financial side of things than I am. So in the future, we've already talked about this, making sure to find other childcare options so that he can come and help until my daughter's old enough to help herself. That would be really fun to be able to do this as a family. I also learned that it doesn't hurt to overpack books. And I will say I did overpack. I did not sell out of books by any means, but I feel like that alleviated potential stress. I would not have wanted to run out of books because I think that a lot of readers were looking for books that they could start reading then, especially kids whose parents were maybe vendors themselves or busy in sessions all day and they were looking for something to do. So I think it would have been discouraging if I had said, oh, you can buy it on my website, or oh, here's an order form, you can buy it later. So I was glad that I had overpacked and had plenty of books and didn't have to stress about, oh, we only have a few sets left. I also found that offering a discount for the series set made a big impact. And so I'm looking forward to next year, hopefully having all three books in the series because I think that will be very appealing to readers. I also learned maybe Saturday or so that for my newsletter list, it was more of a draw for grown-ups if I actually just told them what I write about in my newsletters than it was to say, oh, your kid can spin the prize wheel. And the prize wheel was super fun, don't get me wrong. And the kids loved it. And that was a great way to draw all their grown-ups in. But then in terms of actually having parents sign up for the list to say, I share book reviews and I try to help parents connect with good fiction they can feel good about sharing with their kids. When I shared that message and when I told parents about what I write about, it seemed like they really were excited, which is encouraging because it means that I'm writing things that some people actually want to read. Another thing, next time I would bring cough drops or something soothing for my throat. After Friday, my voice hurt so much from talking all day. Saturday, it was actually much better. I don't know if my voice just naturally adjusted or what, but one of my writing friends who was there, she actually had gotten, I think they were elderberry lollipops that were soothing on the throat, and she gave me a couple of those, which was so generous, and they did help a lot. So thank you, CJ. And next time, that's something that I would definitely want to bring and even bringing enough to share with other vendors because it's a lot of talking, which is great and wonderful to have those conversations. But I was a little nervous. My voice was not going to work for me Saturday. The last thing I thought of for a lesson for next year, I'd love to get some more exciting freebies or unique freebies, or just something that's not candy because I was noticing there was a lot of candy and there were some parents that were like, okay, We don't need more candy. So just having some things that were unique or different or really got kids' attention. They did like the dog erasers. Those were definitely a hit. If you're listening and you homeschool, and if you go to the CHAP convention or to another convention, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to me at my email. It's becca@beccawirwell.com. And that's BECCA at BECCAWIERWILLE.com. And if that's you, I hope to see you maybe at a convention in the future. And regardless, happy reading and hope something here was interesting to you today.